I read somewhere where it was described that the album is the perfect antidote to comfort listening. So I don't know if that came from anybody in the band or if somebody wrote that or what, but maybe we can start off with that. Simon, what do you? You're
that
looking
came
confused.
from Glenn Donaldson, right?
Maybe.
Possibly, yes. I think
Donaldson, yeah. And yeah, actually, when I read that, I felt very, I don't know, I felt seen. Because I feel that to me felt like the clearest, most concise sort of like summary of, I don't know, like if it's like to what degree it's been conscious direction, and what degree it's just sort of like from our dynamic, but that's the kind of music I'm interested in making. So it felt
right,
made me feel good.
Right, and did that kind of mindset bring you guys together, Aaron?
I I joined like later in the life of Cindy. They had already recorded a record,
right?
And yeah, Karina had thoughts or a vision of somebody playing keyboards, or it's probably like melodies playing in her head or something like that, and then she asked me to play. But yeah, I'm not really sure. I can't answer the question because I came in later.
Well, what brought you into the band later?
Karina and I met on in this really small beach town, and it's called Venus, California, on the 4th of July, and we have a bunch of mutual friends. And yeah, we were just talking about music, and yeah, I told her I played music, and then maybe like, I don't know, it took about a few months, but we finally got together, and then I guess I auditioned, and
there you go.
Got the part.
Hey, very good. And is there's a fourth member called Jesse who plays bass? Is that right?
Unfortunately, Jesse's at work and wasn't able to be here, but yes, he is.
Okay, well, since he's not here, we can talk about him. Tell me a little bit about Jesse so we know who he is.
Jesse is one of the founding members of Cindy. I met Jesse at the grocery store, although I had actually met him once before. Yeah, I asked him if he could play bass, and he has been doing a stellar job of it since. He also is the angelic voice you hear sometimes in the background.
Ah, okay.
Those heavenly backing vocals, that's Jesse.
Very cool. Yeah. And so Karina, what was your reaction to that description of what you do, the perfect antidote to comfort listening? Do you relate to that?
I suppose. I mean, there's always a little bit of distance between what I think I'm doing and what other people hear.
Right.
I've gotten more used to that, but it's funny because people often describe Cindy as very peaceful, right, or soothing, or gentle,
right,
and yet not comfortable. Which
yes.
I like that.
Unsettling is a word that has come up.
Okay, I like that. Yeah. I don't experience that way because it's coming directly from me. So to me, it feels quite comfortable because it's what I'm used to. But I like the idea that it can be both peaceful and also unexpected in some way.
All right. So I'll throw this out to the panel. When you guys are in the studio, how do you guys work together? Is there somebody in charge? Do people take on specific roles, or do you just kind of pick up instruments and see what happens?
I'd say it starts with picking up instruments and seeing what happens. And then it gets pretty streamlined from there as far as the direction that Karina wants to take it.
Right. So Karina, do you take a leadership role? Since I assume the songwriting is primarily your responsibility, so you have an idea of what you want these things to sound like, right?
Yeah. So I come to the band with a song, and I usually have a pretty clear feeling about what the song feels like to me, but I can't play their parts, and I don't write their parts, and And so it's very much me bringing a kind of skeleton, and then Aaron and Simon and Jesse all sort of shaping, kind of giving it life and a body. And sometimes the song changes significantly, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, I muddle through being a leader of some nature. Yeah.
And I get the feeling that there's a certain amount of intimacy just involved in the songwriting and the songs themselves. So you obviously need to feel comfortable with whoever is in the studio at the time. So how do you establish that so that you can be comfortable working on these things?
One day at a time.
Okay.
I think we all come from different backgrounds, and I feel like part of the power of Cindy is something in that dynamic. And so it's not always easy for us. Sometimes it's very easy, but often there's a lot of back and forth, and there can be tension, but again, I feel like that's something of value, and that comes across too, I think.
Gotcha. So when you're in the studio and you're working on stuff, do you work with a framework and then kind of take it in different directions? How organized is it?
It's funny that you keep saying studio, because it's actually Karina's basement.
There you go.
Karina inside the basement.
I'm not surprised. I'm hearing that a lot these days.
Yeah, a little makeshift studio. Yeah, as far as what was the question again?
Now you got me. I was just wondering how if you had a format or kind of a form that you started with and then kind of went off from that.
Yeah, it's kind of what Karina was saying. She comes in with the skeleton of a song, just like the chord progressions and structure, and then we sort of just all add on top of it. And there's some suggestions of maybe like dumbing down some parts, because I love the simplicity of Cindy, and sometimes I want to go all out and like play a lot of more notes than necessary, maybe. It's just sort of, we just sort of talk through it, and it seems to come pretty naturally, just from within, like, I don't know, like a half an hour after Karina brings a song to a table, we have like a pretty legitimate idea of like what direction it's going to go in.
Yeah, because it does seem like there's a lot of space in what you do, and
a lot
of the power of the music comes from the sparseness of it, from not playing, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that all of us mostly tend to agree on. Yeah, is
that would be important. You'd hate to have one person who just want to play a million notes within it would be like
no noodles.
No noodles.
No noodles.
Yeah.
Now the album is called, was it? How do you say it? 1 to 2 or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What does that mean to you, and why is that the title track?
Me.
Yeah. Why not?
I forgot. Yeah, I don't know.
I can't realize that you can't tell that I'm looking at you.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think a lot of the songs play around with the idea of a kind of me and you, but sometimes the you is also part of myself. So the idea of I think a lot of my songs have that sort of doubleness, that I'm both talking to myself and also talking out to others.
Yeah.
And that particular song maybe is more explicitly that way. And honestly, I don't know that that's the title track because it speaks for the record. In fact, I don't think it does. But maybe the title in some way says something about a theme that's in a lot of the songs.
All right. And I see you made a video for one of them. Or was it Party Store? I can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think visually about your music when you're making it, or do you let somebody else kind of go, here, make a video?
Sometimes you say, yeah, you're feeling small. You plan all day for your funeral. The cocoa light and the organ plays. Your deadbeat dad, but in a suit of gray.
I don't actually, no, I mean, I don't actually think about the music visually. The videos were never, for me, a first thought.
Right.
They're fun to make, but the music for me sort of stands on its own, does its own job. And the video is kind of something one does, you know.
Right. Yeah, you did one for To Be True as well, which is kind of lyrically, you're kind of talking about stepping out of the darkness. And I mean, again, can you elaborate on what's going on in that tune?
In my mind's eye, I'll see her forever. Step out of the darkness, wearing tree.
It's kind of thinking about what it's like to be a woman in a city,
Right.
and just on the street, and the sort of doubleness that can often create. But it also comes from a very concrete experience of crossing the street and seeing a woman with really like stretch leather boots and this big clunky shape on her leg, and realizing that it was an ankle monitor. And just the way in which sometimes like a tiny visual thing can sort of speak to this whole bigger picture. So I guess a lot of things going on, but if I had to say one thing about it, that's what it would be.
Right. Well, I mean, let's face it, stuff is happening on all sorts of fronts, politically and socially and racially and gender related things. So how does all that seep into what you're doing creatively?
I'll let somebody else take that.
All righty, Simon.
I think, well, I mean, not to speak of myself yet, but just from knowing Karina and working with Karina for this long, I don't know that it, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem like that's, you know, I don't think there's any sense of like consciously addressing political issues or something.
Right. No, I wouldn't call this a political album.
But, you know, I mean, when you're a thoughtful person, these things sort of, they just show up. They just can't help but show up when you pay attention to things and you're thinking about things and feeling things.
Right. So are you going to be able to do gigs? So I don't know, because here we're locked down, so we're not doing anything at the moment, but we will be.
Oh, really? There's nothing going on there?
Well, we were for the longest time when everybody else was locked down. We were having a great time, and then then we got locked down because the variant showed up, and we decided we're going to kill it before it kills us.
Right.
So we're stuck in our little hovels at the moment. So the light's at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, so are you going to be playing out?
Yeah, we have some shows coming up. We have been playing some outdoor shows, which is really nice. And venues are open here. Luckily in San Francisco at the Bay Area, proof of vaccination and masks are pretty well enforced. So it feels, you know, as safe as one can be given the circumstances. And I don't know if I can't speak for Aaron and Simon, but it feels like a privilege, and I'm glad that we can do it safely, at least for the time being.
And do the songs take a different shape when they're on stage?
Pretty much the way it goes is, you know, like what we establish in our space goes on to the record more or less. I mean, there you know, some maybe minor additions or subtractions here and there, but it seems like overall, barring those, like, you know, maybe a track has like too many percussion instruments for me to play at the same time, so those don't show up when we play live. But the general mood, and I think the sound and the mood is pretty steady.
Right. And what is the mood from the crowd? And are they like partying? Are they intense? Are they kind of hanging on what does it feel like from you guys from the stage?
Either hanging on every word or totally uninterested.
That's gotta be frustrating.
It's actually a relief. It means that nobody's paying attention. It's, stakes are lower.
I think your sound would definitely go down well in New Zealand because they have like the whole Flying Nun and the indie vibe that happened in the late 70s, early 80s was kind of built around the Velvet Underground and that kind of feel and vibe, which is definitely something that you guys kind of tap into as well. So
Yeah.
come on down.
We'd love
Thank
to.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And come visit San Francisco. There's lots of great shows.
Yeah, well, I've been there, but I can't get out. I can get out of the country, but I can't get back in because it's very difficult at this moment. But I'm sure that will change. So yeah. Well, thank you guys for spending time with me, all of you. It's been thrilling.
Thank you so much.
See you
Appreciate your
later.
time.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Take care. Thanks.
Bye.